Welcome to the Pillar Podcast, where we put racial equity front and center. Join us as we dissect equity policy, overcoming achievement gaps, and strategies that ensure equitable learning opportunities, experiences, and outcomes for all students.
Welcome to another episode of the Pillar Podcast. I am your host, Ian Brandon, Satellite Office Supervisor for Jefferson County Public Schools. Today I have with me Mr. Brian Smith, resource teacher for the Diversity, Equity, and Poverty Division of JCPS. And today we'll be talking about teacher resources, professional developments, culturally responsive teaching, literacy programs, and more. Brian, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited.
I'm excited too, man. Brian, you are a new addition to DEP and selfishly one of my favorites. We've had a number of conversations offline and together just about work and life. And I really appreciate and value your perspective. You have a very unique lens. So I'm more than honored to have you here today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I'm pleased to be one of your favorites, brother. I know we spend a few mornings here, we're getting into our coffee talks and things of that nature. But it's just, I do enjoy being around you. And when I was able to sign up for the podcast, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait, man. I couldn't explain it, but something lit a fire inside of me. Yeah.
I think we just have good convo, man. We've had to reschedule a couple of times, but here we are.
Yes, sir.
So, Brian, you have been an educator for about 14 years, if my math serves me correctly.
Yeah. So let me give you the origin story here. I graduated from U of L through the MET program. I'm also a recipient of the MTRP program. Just want to let that be known. I'm also a student worker from the Office of Minority Affairs back in the day when it's around under Mr. Ed Laster. Let that be known too.
For the record.
For the record. But it was like family away from family because I'm not from Louisville.
Okay. Yeah. Morgantown or Morganfield.
Morganfield, yes, sir.
Excuse me.
Born and raised. So I finished the MAT program at U of L in like 2005. I started teaching there, and I certified language arts, social studies. So I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade over a stream of years. A little bit at Thomas Jefferson, a little bit at No Middle, a little bit at Olmsted North, the all boys. And I've just been fortunate to come across folk in DEP. So I guess my inaugural exposure to DEP was with Mrs. Rachel Klein.
Yeah. She's been on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Love Rachel. She's awesome. And
I got to do some stuff with her under a group called Tote. And I just leave it at Tote because I can't remember what the TOE.
It's okay.
Yeah. And then I come across Greg Vann as well. And got to kind of follow him around to some elementary schools. And I just been excited about the work.
Yeah. Greg hasn't been on yet, but I'm hoping to get him in at the book end of this year. But he does a phenomenal job with the Black Student Union Group. His work in the community with Roots 101, like he's on top of it. I know that he's having he's working the Students of Color celebration with Jasmine Drinkard this evening. So, Greg's awesome. So as a resource teacher, you're tasked with providing essentially technical assistance to school staff, right? You design professional developments, curriculum, and assist teachers in utilizing culturally responsive lessons in their classrooms.
That's what I get to do. It really, I think the thing that what you said is true, and the at the atom of this, the epicenter, if you will, is my experience as a teacher. Seeing how exclusive content was, how stories were left out, how my own experiences as a public school recipient, and then as an educator, just kind of ushered on the void of Afrocentric curriculum, relevant curriculum, half-truths, so on and so forth. And so I get to offer those supports and resources to teachers. I say the last 2 years at Olmsted North, I taught Developing Historical Black Consciousness. And it was like a Black history course. But what really drew my interest was the consciousness. How do you teach that? How do you talk about that? And so I spent 2 or 3 years just kind of cultivating. I like to call myself a cultivating educator, cultivating this consciousness portion of the curriculum. And I come to some rather nifty conclusions, if you will, that really help to support what I'm able to do with DEP and my approach to dealing with folk in education.
Perfect, because it's a great segue for me, because I was doing a little research on you, Brian.
Uh-oh.
And one of your Twitter headlines states, teachers and farmers, have a lot in common. We share responsibility to help grow a positive world. Let's cultivate the future.
Yeah.
So you just hinted at you being a cultivator. And I just think that's fitting. So your experience in the classroom, I guess, essentially was the foundation for the work you're doing within DEP. So it's, to me, I see it's kind of come full circle, right? How do you take that time frame where you cultivated, gathered these experiences from the classroom, right? And now, I don't know if your goal is to make the lesson plans or the curriculum less exclusive, right? Is your goal to open it up? Are you just starting with your classroom? Are you building a template, obviously a resource that you can share with school communities?
Yeah. And I'm really kind of digging on that as far as creating a blueprint, if you will, a template that would actually help to kind of forge that cultivating environment for diverse students. So for instance, it's kind of like capturing some things that, the subtle things that can be taken for granted. So for instance, emphasizing how important it is for teachers or anyone dealing with people to just start the class off with saying, how are you doing today? And then taking a step further and saying, well, how's your family doing? And waiting for the nods and the affirmations, and then sharing how you're doing and sharing how your family's doing.
Yeah.
Because a lot can happen in 24 hours. I could have come to this particular podcast from Kozer Hospital. So I got a world of grief and I have it. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah, correct.
But there's been plenty of nights where kids and teachers have less emergency rooms to come back to their jobs and not to even have that acknowledged, not to have someone to check in and say, hey, how you doing? Something that I tell my kids is, hey, we're here for 50, 60 minutes, maybe it's a block schedule, 90 minutes. And these are not the most important minutes of our lives. Because you got somebody looking forward for you to come home, just like I do.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we both have cell phones, right? And if I get a call from a certain number, my mom or my wife, I'm gone. I got to see what's up. And it should be the same way with you.
Yeah.
But we do have a very unique time because nowhere else in the world will we all be together to create this culture of learning and listening and growing and then seeing one another anywhere else in the world. So let's make today count. Let's make it special. And just kind of building with that.
Yeah.
With that.
And in my past studies, my master's is in corporate communication advocacy, and that's spot on to establishing or building common ground, right? You're a lot more, or you increase your success in introducing new information or persuading someone to do something or a group to act when there's common ground, right?
Yeah.
We have a little, we both have similarities. We both have skin in the game. Guards are let down, a little bit more. It just creates a more welcoming environment.
And it has to. It has to be at least acknowledged in a learning environment because I tell students, and I'm just modeling what I say because I haven't created that blueprint yet.
Yeah, no,
it's a process.
It's there.
But I tell them that, 10 to 15 years from now, I'm going to vote for somebody. Somebody's going to have to hire me. Someone's going to have to be my doctor. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to need a lawyer.
Yeah.
Because, I can get into some trouble, and I don't need a stupid boss. I don't need a mean doctor. I don't need an ignorant lawyer. I need some good folk.
Yeah.
So I need you to be elevated in your thinking because I'm thinking highly of you. So think highly of yourself. And we get to work that way. I identify them as gifted and talented.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just off back. They don't need a test. They don't need a test. They don't need my approval. They don't need, they have that for those that can. But until, all of these things are accessible to all kids, I'm just going to say you're gifted and talented in something.
Correct. Yeah.
And we'll just grow from there. So just cultivating that type of deal.
I think it's with that mentality that you were fortunate enough to be identified, right, or named in 2019 as the model. You were featured in an article produced by our phenomenal Dr. Abdul Sharif and Envision Equity. As you mentioned, you have a tailored approach to educating in your classroom, making it a point to identify students as gifted and talented. And I think that is so important, right? We talk a lot, and we have talked a lot on this podcast about identity, self-worth, belonging, climate and culture. And to me, that's it. And it's like the epitome of that, right? You don't need validation from someone else or a test or an exam to identify our Black and brown students as gifted and talented. Like giving that affirmation right out the gate. Yeah. This is who you are, and if you're not there yet, this is who you can be. I think that's very important in establishing a foundation before you even begin to teach, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like to tell them stories about my experiences, or just maybe have a personal way of introducing things, and just by sure divine timing, if you will. I know that the kids that I encounter for the year when I was in the classroom are predestined for greatness because God allowed me to wake up in the morning to come teach these guys, because if you really, were to maybe just speaking kind of abstractly, if you plugged the TV into my brain and saw who I was and where I came from and what I did and what I thought and choices that I made, all of them weren't so great. And you would clearly see that the greatest person in the room would have to be the kid that I'm talking to, So I get to wake up this morning to come teach you, the child, because you're predestined for greatness, So you're great already.
Yeah.
and I'm gonna work hard. Matter of fact, I tell them that I'm the greatest teacher of all times. I take off the Ali.
Yeah.
I'm the greatest.
Yeah.
I'm the greatest you're gonna have. You're not gonna find. You're gonna have to go to college to find somebody better than me. And when you find them in college, you come back and tell me. But they've been ungraduated by then, so But I tell them that, and the kids are like, "No, you're not gonna be better than my second grade teacher or my third." Some of them do, and then some of them like, "Okay, we'll see."
Yeah.
But I have to be that because to me, they're the greatest.
Yeah. But I think they also have to see that in you. They have to see that disposition, that confidence in you. So they may not be seeing that anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So, in my opinion, to see someone affirming themselves in real time, affirming whom they're teaching, I think subconsciously it connects. It's like fist and glove,
Yeah.
So I want to switch gears a little bit from the in-classroom experience to your current experiences or experience with teachers of record, right? So you're now moved out of the classroom as teacher of record to a resource teacher. And it's funny you mentioned Rachel Klein because that's where I want to shift into. So I had the anti-racist specialist on a couple episodes ago, and we talked about the ARE tool. And for those that may have missed that episode, that is the Affirming Racial Equity tool. And this is not a new resource to the district, and I know many use it and some don't, but how do you emphasize the importance of this tool to current teachers? How does the tool help sustain inclusivity and racial equity? And what can be done to increase the utilization of the tool?
Of course, Ms. Klein, Ms. Rodriguez,
And Cook.
And Ms. Cook, they do fine work with our tool. Yeah. I think with sharing it with teachers, really getting them to see, first of all, the policy, and saying, hey, this is what JCPS is doing. This is a policy. Yeah. This is what is being enforced. Let's, because there's different levels of needs when it comes to creating dealing with R2. So for instance, some folk need an additional push, like this is a policy. You can't be doing that.
Yeah.
You need to be doing this, but then, and then on another level, it is showing them like, this is what it looks like in your classroom. So for instance, classroom empowerment, are students getting a choice? Like, let's look at these bullet points. So I show them what it actually looks like when it is used in class. Matter of fact, I'll do a presentation and show them one of the stems of the R tool. So for instance, like I said, classroom empowerment, content integration. What does it look like when you are really taking that extra step to find content that is relevant to the kids that you're servicing? Are you finding this? Then are you conscious of the material that you're using?
Yeah.
How would you feel consuming this, and how do you feel issuing this out? Don't just dole out content because it's what you experienced. Really look at it through the lens of diversity and understand that every encounter is a multicultural encounter, and have in mind students and their perceptions and their needs and what they gravitate to and what will help the content to stick, and give them voice and choice. So just creating that, really modeling what that looks like in your thought process or as you're elevating kids.
Yeah. And I think I always want to help reiterate, it's a policy. Yeah. Right? It was put into place because more than one group of people feel this will enhance and elevate student outcome, right? And we know that takes some time to buy into, right? But buying in efficiently and effectively, I think, is the key, right? How vital do you believe it is for tools and resources that help to ensure racial equity remains in a district policy?
It's crucial, flat out right, because it's really easy to get caught up in your own privilege, your own perspective, and to overlook the needs of someone who may not share the same religious beliefs as you, or racial identity as you, or economic standing as you do. And so you assume that, or one could assume that, well, it worked for them. They made it. They benefit from the system. I think you call it meritocracy. So why aren't you, cashing in? It must be you.
It must be you.
You
Correct.
must be you.
Yeah.
So definitely putting something in people's line sight, if you will, that reminds them that you have to service students. You have to see them. You have to be aware. You have to at least be culturally conscious, or at least culturally, what's the word? I don't want to say culturally competent. That's not what I want to say. I would say culturally have some humility,
Yes.
when dealing with folk. Because if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
So, but there are those tools there set to be a reminder. And it's a great grand step in the right direction for folk that really want to make connections with kiddos and other folk in the community.
Yeah. So you also provide resources and support through professional developments. Most of your PDs also tailor toward racial equity and inclusivity. There's one PD specifically I want to talk about called Mental Armor. What did that PD entail, and what did participants walk away with?
Well, Mental Armor, I was in the classroom, and a student brought a weapon to school, and it really shook us. At least the population of kids that I was teaching, and because they had personal encounters with the guy, they lived in the same neighborhood. So, granted, they were able to retrieve the weapon and without any incident, and he was expelled or whatnot. And that was great for the school community as far as securing those that were aware and were not aware, but it did absolutely nothing for the kids that lived in the same neighborhood. And so I really began to think, how can I cultivate a learning environment that has been traumatized by something, and they continue to live with that threat or that ideal of not being protected in their community? What's to stop them from arming themselves because they know that he may carry a weapon?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? And so I began to think about and pay attention to some of the things that really kind of spur other disruptions in classroom, and they were tied one way or another to trauma. And so thinking about how we absorb it mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and what impacts that cause and where they come from, and helping kids to identify it when they see it, helping them to identify it in themselves, but also in others. We've always used, so for instance, we used, it's on YouTube somewhere, but we used Hot Boy at the time, or Hot N-word, and we listened to the lyrics, and then I took the music away, and then we read the lyrics.
Just straight lyrics, yep.
And I said, there's 4 ways this brother's gonna be traumatized, mentally, physically, health-wise, and spiritual, I believe is what I said. So we're gonna annotate his lyrics as a group to figure out what areas have been traumatized. So there's a verse in there where he says, I've been selling crack since the 5th grade. Well, when you look at that without the beat behind it and the music behind it, you really have to think about that. So by using hot N-word, and we use some text and some videos and some clips and some pictures to talk about how traumatic perceptions can be developed, and the kids became advocates for character development, if you will. And the end result of that was we decided to write letters to that student about how he could deal with his anger, his resentment, because we began to look at him as a human being, not a statistic, who felt like he needed to protect himself one way or another, or had reasons to carry that, what he was exposed to. And we actually, because kids lived in the neighborhood, we actually got those letters to him, and just kind of, dealt with that. So if we were allowed to continue, because the year was closing, we could look at world problems, city problems, neighborhood problems, personal problems, peer problems, and actually become like peer mentors, if you will.
Yeah. I'm looking at that lyric now, and
what did it say?
I've been selling crack since like the 5th grade, which is ironic because we were teaching essentially in middle school. I mean, that's around the same age. So I think for those students that was relatable.
Yeah.
Not just because of the song, but because of the age.
Yes,
right?
Sir. Yeah.
The grade, like it's almost like when you see a peer be successful or fail or meet a demise, like it's a little easier to put yourself in that person's shoes, right? It hits home a little bit more.
Yeah.
Sticking with the culturally responsive component, right? You held a book study entitled "White Folks Who Teach in the Hood."
Yeah.
The title alone is clickbait, right? Coming from a marketing person myself, it sticks out. What was the end goal of the workshop, and how does a workshop like this help teachers be more culturally responsive?
Well, the book For White Folk Who Teach in the Hood, and the rest of y'all too.
Okay. Yeah. Finish it out.
That by Christopher Emdin. And I read that book. I read it first, and when I couldn't sit still to read it, maybe I'd get it on Audible and listen to it. So, I'm going through the book for the book study, and there was there's some tough stuff in there, man. Like he's very candid about his experience and what he observed, the mistakes that he's made, and how he got around certain things and challenges that were relatable to all teachers. But he's also, I tell you what, the toughest part of that book, or the coldest part of the book, was I can liken it to Carter G. Woodson's The Miseducation of the Negro in certain aspects. And I'm going to say in my own words, I can't quote it verbatim, but somewhere in there, Carter G. Woodson says that, and I want to say it pretty for podcast, but I'm just going to say it. If you're taught by an abusive teacher, maybe they're abusing you because of your race or whatever, and you are taught to teach by the teacher, when that teacher's moved on, you have embodied that
you're carrying it on.
You're carrying it on.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what your color is, And so just presented that again in that light, hearing him say it in that light. He didn't quote Carter G. Woodson, but I just kind of pieced it together. And I was like, it's still so relevant. So that forced me to be aware, created my own awareness of, and I'll use my own terms. There's a term out there somewhere, but institutional biases. And so what comes along with this profession? What comes along with the teaching profession, what are the institutional biases that would also that each institution would actually carry. So doctors, lawyers, plumbers, it doesn't matter. There's something that you inherit as you take on that profession. And so this book study really was used, or turned out to be, this in this ethos, as a mirror to get teachers to really look at themselves and what they inherited.
Because that's where the work starts, right? When we talk about being culturally responsive, culturally aware, being in tune with all the different facets within a classroom. You're talking race, culture, ethnicity, all these things. Having that mirror in front of you, that's what the anti-racist specialists talk about, right? That self-work. Yeah. As the late MJ would say, you start with the man in the mirror.
Right.
And essentially, that's
yeah. You got to do your work.
You got to do it.
That's a Yana Van Zant. You got to do your work. You know.
And you also facilitate and support a number of DEP programs, specifically Lit-An, and I'll say Lit-An and Ed Rising. And I just love the Lit-An programs. I just haven't seen camps like it. And I use the word camp lightly, but some activity or place where you can go and be exposed to a new activity. And of course, get some literacy and not really recognizing as a student, these things are working together, you know? So the Lit-An programs connect standards-based literacy to character-building opportunities. Most recently, I didn't get a chance to swing by. I went over to the Lit and Chess spring break camp. Great. Love Corbin Sievers. He is phenomenal with the students.
Yes.
Corbin is amazing. I have a chess academy that I run that he facilitates. Great. But I want to talk to you about I think it's the newest Lit-An, is the Lit-An boxing. The first one was held at DeBoer, correct?
Yeah, yes, sir.
How was that?
It was great.
Yeah.
It was great. Shout out to Dr. McPhail and Dr. Marshall for putting money where it matters.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that's in the hands and backs and feet of kids that may have not otherwise got to experience these vendors or support on season and off season. But yeah, Lit Boxing is the youngest program. As I started work for DP, one of the things was like, what else can you do? You know? And I was like, well, oh boy, let's go.
How much time you had?
Yeah. So Lit Boxing was one of them that we've kind of been tinkering on. And what we have, not only just for Lit Boxing, if I could back up just a little bit before all Lit-Ins, we have now an Afrocentric support resource, if you will. And so literally what that looks like is that, so Lit-In already offers everything from Lit-In soccer to Lit-In culinary, there's like 20 some odd programs.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And each one of those has its own Afrocentric resources. So for instance, when a teacher teaches Lit-In aquatics, they don't have to do a whole lot of digging and research because, our history is hidden for some reason or another, right? So I've gathered let's say, so for instance, for Lit-In aquatics, I'll just go with that.
Yeah.
There's like 54 slides of resources that show people of color engaging in aquatics.
Okay.
Everything from water pool therapy to underwater engineering to so on and so forth. So when a child signs up for Lit-In aquatics and the teacher pulls from this nest of Afrocentric resources, that child is going to think that his world, his black world, his world, his or her world of color is just black folk doing a bunch of aquatics or people of color doing aquatics. They won't feel like a minority.
Yeah.
Now,
correct.
take that with fencing, take that with soccer, take that with volleyball, take that with cooking, take that with boxing, so on and so forth. So that's what it does.
Yeah.
Now, with Lytton Boxing, we have a focus on Ali.
Of course, yep.
And what's, we got the museum and we have so many lessons out there about Ali. We should. This is Louisville proud, right? Kentucky grown, Louisville proud. But what makes this Lytton Boxing stand out, and we actually did it with middle and high school as well, which was a first.
Oh, yeah.
And we look at Ali from childhood, but we also look at the state of Louisville and America so that we can get a good idea as to what Ali's world would have been like politically, environmentally, as he was growing up. And so by the time we get to him and his fiery speech as to why he won't go kill people in Vietnam, why he won't go to war, and he speaks the way he speaks, and he says he's beautiful and pretty, we understand that he's not speaking from an arrogant heart. He's speaking from an esteeming, an affirming, like we were kind of talking about earlier, an affirming heart, as in I'm black. The world says I'm ugly. The world would suggest that I'm just no good. I have no history, but I'm beautiful. I'm pretty. I'm the greatest. I'm the best. I go pound for pound, so on and so forth. So we see why he speaks that way. And then we also understand the world that kind of shaped him politically and environmentally as well, economically, because we're looking at Louisville as it's transitioning too.
Correct.
And we're seeing, so kids are seeing, wow, the West End was popping. It was, I think they say busing now.
Busing.
It was busing. What happened? Well, here's a clip right here.
Yeah.
We're gonna see some redlining. You're gonna have an understanding of this, and primary resources. So we see that. So the idea is that when Ali, as a child, Cassius Clay, when he came across information, we heard his sister Billie Holiday sang "Strange Fruit."
Oh, yeah.
And how he felt, Or when he saw Emmett Till's body, in a newspaper, and how he felt and how that affected him socially, emotionally, in that development. But yet he could still say, I'm the greatest. I'm still going to persevere. I'm resilient. It's just something in me that won't let you defeat me, no matter what you look like and no matter where I'm coming from. They won't let me at the Fontaine Square, but I'm still great, So when kids see that part of Ali's life and they think about some police shootings, George Floyd, when they drive past Sister Breonna Taylor's murals around the city, when they see, they might not have language for redlining, they might not have it, but they see the difference between the West and the East.
Correct.
They get the sense of when they step in and out of school institutions, oh, I'm the greatest though. I'm from the West. I'm from Louisville. I'm from Kentucky. I got that melanin magic, if you will, so they can proclaim it for themselves. Yeah. So we'll take notes from Ali's life. So that's what Lytton Boxing does. Not to mention that we have some of the best boxing vendors in the city to come teach kids how to box. And it was open for. We had 2 young ladies and several fellas, and they stuck with it. So it's for boys and girls, and we just
love it.
Got in there, man.
Man, if you Ali is the king of affirmations, and again, it's programs and intentionality in bringing this education that makes dreams tangible. It's not so far-fetched to say or to learn about, man, this we grew up the same.
Yeah.
He or she made it out.
Yeah.
There's no reason, no way I can't make it out.
Yeah.
And that's just beautiful to me.
When you said that, I wanted to say something about Lit In, because we've heard seeing is believing. Mm-hmm. But with Lit In, I want to add another layer of flavor to that. I want to say now reading is being. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. So, Yeah, let's get him in here.
Yeah, let me.
So,
I need to
hey,
that one.
yeah.
I want to spend a couple minutes on Educators Rising. I know it is an engaging experience that helps guide students who are seeking a career in education. But what exactly is Educators Rising? How does it work? What can students expect? How would a student get connected?
Okay. So I can give you the technical terminology, but I'm gonna say what it looks like.
Yeah,
You
Breck,
know,
just give it to us raw.
All right. So Ed Rising, these are either during school day, career teaching education paths, during the school day, or some of them could be clubs as well as at the school. But the idea is that the teacher are getting kids engaged and interested in becoming educators with various programs and activities. And then there's a district-wide organization, if you will. Then there's national as well. Well, the state, then national. So you got folk all over the state of Kentucky and really, I'm gonna say across America doing this. And so, for instance, DEP has sponsored, has sent kids from several schools all over Louisville on field trips to WKU, NKU.
Go Tops.
Yes, Eastern Kentucky. We've just all over the place to take college tours and to get information firsthand. The EPs made sure kids had transportation. Brother DeJuan Williams, who's like the guru of Ed Rising, shout out to him, hands down, period.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And field trips, professors come out and talk to the kids, providing them resources, and they walk around, take tours, see the dorms, so they can really picture themselves there. And not just teachers from the educational departments will come out and talk. I mean, we'll have them come out from just whomever. So should a child change his or her mind about education, maybe they want to go into speech pathology or medical school. Oftentimes, those colleges will actually bring professors out from that, and they'll make those connections.
Yeah.
So literally, and I want to really share this perspective. Dr. Marshall's vision for Ed Rising has literally united diverse students from all over Louisville. Now, Louisville is very cliquish as far as the high schools.
Yes, correct.
They don't even ask, like, what school you go to. I can tell how you walk. You went to this school. I'm not from here. So
you learn that real quick when you come to Louisville.
So, but what he's done, he's created a caravan of 80 plus at any given time to 120 kids, maybe even more high school students that would go on field trips together to certain colleges to have these schools and these experiences to make sure that our kids know about these college programs, have the inside scoop, can picture themselves at these locations. Went to Bellarmine, and Spalding, and just got the tour and got to see. So he's really putting dollars behind creating teachers, getting kids interested in higher education. And that could be anywhere from freshmen to seniors in these programs. DeJuan Williams is really working hard as well because we're on the national leg of Ed Rising competitions where there's 20 plus, 30 plus competitions where students can compete with creating lesson plans, presentations, talking about topics off the cuff related to education. But they present these things and then they're judged and then they'll get passed on. So right now we're on the leg of actually getting prepared for nationals, which will be in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what Ed Rising is, kind of in a nutshell. It's a lot, but it's beautiful stuff.
What I'm hearing is, first of all, shout out to a lot of the students that at such a young age know they want to be educators or educator in some capacity. Right. Like that's beautiful. But it also, I think it it exposes one to opportunities. I know as a young learner myself, you think, well, this is all that's in education is teacher. Well, there's many different facets within or opportunities within a district to serve. Like, I love the role that I'm in. I'm not a certified teacher, right? I'm not in a classroom, but I still have a indirect impact on students through programming, and it's something I wasn't exposed to as a young learner. But to see a program where kids can compete, network, make connections at a state and local level in competition, it's robust, but also needed. So yeah, thank you for that. I love that program. I have two more questions for you, Brian.
Yeah.
All right. How can the district help you to continue to push racial equity forward?
I would like everyone to go to their bathroom in their personal domiciles. Go to their bathrooms, turn on that light, and just look in the mirror. And really ask the questions like, who am I? What makes me great? What are my shortcomings? Who am I serving? What is my purpose? Why am I doing this? Is it about kids? Who do I want to see win at the end of the day? Who am I really pulling for? And really ask themselves that question honestly. Let's get down to the consciousness of it. Let's get down to the consciousness of it. Because if you could be honest with yourself and say, well, I don't like those kids over there. I like these kids over here. Cool. But let's do that work so that you can understand and respect the kids over there.
Yeah, correct.
You know? So that we can love on kids over there, so that we can be patient with kids over there, so that we can be kind-hearted and tender and forgiving for those kids over there, so that we can jump in that gap that no one seems to know how to fill. You know.
Man, Brian, I will say your lens is one of a kind, and that's why I enjoy picking your brain. I enjoy our conversation.
Man, I'm gonna say something extra because I've been waiting for this podcast for over a year. I was like, man, come on, Ian, put me on. Can somebody drop out and pick me up a little faster? But brother, I just started wearing glasses, but I do spiritual things, man. This is what it is. I do spiritual things, So I'm gonna give you a little bit of fun, then I'm gonna be straight up. So, like I said, I gotta renew myself spiritually. So I watch spiritual movies like Sing 2, when you Sing 2?
I don't think I've seen Sing 2.
I think it's on Netflix.
Okay. All right.
You ain't gotta see part 1. It helps. Yeah, I'm talking about the cartoon, folk. When that line come out the back, man, my good God. I just get moved every time.
Now I gotta go watch it.
You gotta sing to my good God. Yes. And and I ain't gonna go into what the line represents to me. See, I can go deep.
Okay.
But I'm gonna stay right here.
Okay.
No, but it really just enjoying and being grateful. If you saw my truck, I have in front of it says grateful. Grateful to be here. Grateful to serve. Grateful to not look like where I came from, but to have made it in spite of, grateful to be blessed with opportunities to rest of the work with DP or to be a teacher, to get through school. Grateful that I can do things to this day that I can still make my mother proud. Just grateful, man.
Yeah.
And so I come not with my hands closed, but with my hands open, ready to serve, ready to listen, ready to love, ready to work. But I also don't take for granted situations that other folk go through, and what they may be experiencing.
Yeah.
You know, so that helps to fuel that lens. Yeah. All right.
One final question. Name drop someone who has influenced, encouraged you to do the work that you're doing today.
That's one name. I'm gonna give you two.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
I'm gonna give you two.
Give me
and
two.
I'm gonna give you. I'll give you three out of respect for the third.
Okay.
One, my mama,
Yeah.
Sharon Benson. Middle school, folk did a presentation, and they said they showed statistics like 13 out of 20 of you are gonna be in jail before you graduate high school. If you're a young lady, 11 out of 17 of you are going to be pregnant before you hit 9th grade, so on and so, or 10th grade, or so on and so forth. That's all of this stuff, and they just left. They left the auditorium. It was at Baker Middle School, and I was in 8th grade. Some things you could just recall.
Yeah, you just
traumatic information.
Uh-huh,
You know,
yeah.
I knew what I had on. I had, had on my BKs, British Nikes.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But so I went home and I told my mother, and she just, I don't think she even turned around. She just said, "Baby, those are just numbers."
Huh.
Now, the thing is that about 4 years later, after graduating high school and running into some friends, and I said, "Hey, do you remember that day when we was in middle school?" They would remember it. And unfortunately, some of them did go to jail. Some of them did drop out of school. Some of the young ladies did have babies and things. I'm not saying that their situation wasn't possible, but I just wonder how many of them had somebody to go home to talk to. So my mother, another person is Ed Laster. Because I was never supposed to go to school. Was not labeled the smart one. Was not the favorite in the family.
Yeah.
Okay, you call it whatever color sheep you want, but I was hee-hawing that now, okay? Sheep told me hee-haw. It's how far off I was on their record scale, So things happened. I went to work, got at the high school, got sick, said, "Hey, what can I get that people can take away from me?" Started off at community college, at Henderson Community College in Henderson, Kentucky. Shout out to HCC. And saw it and was grooving with it. Then I transferred to U of L, MTRP scholarship, came across Miss Hambrick, Miss Sheffield. But they made the folk I want to shout out. I love them though, don't get me wrong. But it was a place over there right across from the School of Education. Well, it used to be till it tore it down. And it was called, at the time I was there, the Office of Minority Affairs. And it's a gentleman by the name of Ed Laster. These folk were my surrogate family because I couldn't afford to drive home. I had to get a Greyhound bus and go home twice a year, if I was lucky. And so they really took me in. Mr. Laster, he would hand me books, just like he had a whole bookshelf, and he would just give me a book. I didn't realize how valuable
it is.
that was, but I would take the book and I would hold it and I'd give it back to him in a week. I wasn't reading them books.
Yeah.
At the rate I was turning them back to him.
Yeah.
But he trusted me with them, and he always spoke highly of me. And when he saw me, it was like he was just glad that I was there. All of them, Miss Russell, Miss Webb, Miss Thomas, Mr. Turner, Mr. Lassett, they just made a home they just made a home for me. I don't think they even realized the impact they have on me. So it just kind of, I'll give you a quick story about him, 30 seconds, less than that. So, now look, here's how much hee-hawing I was doing. Like I said, sheep don't make that noise, but this is what I was doing. So MTRP was like, "Okay, you got your bachelor's, good, but we need you to go get your master's." I was like, "What is a master's? Why do I have to go?"
Yeah.
I didn't see that in the defined kind. What are you talking about? So they wanted me to get a 2-year degree, get my master's, and my teacher certification. So I went to Mr. Lassiter's office and I was like, "Hey man, I'm surprised I got this far. I'm scared, And he said, N-word, get the degree. And he just turned around.
Man, a few words.
Yeah, just, So it was
that's
like
impactful.
Yeah. And, so I said, all right. And but it was just kind of like a gut check, like,
Yeah.
Boy, get this degree.
Yeah.
I done been out there. Get this degree. It's going to help you, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And the teaching thing stuck. And then the third person, just out of love, really, this could have been my number one, is my wife. You know, growing up in a Christian home, I ain't never talked to God so much, man. You know, and I say that not like one would assume, oh, you got to pray, you know, she must be, that's not it. When you have somebody that loves God and they reflect his love to you, you can't help but to be grateful.
You just can't. Yeah.
You can't, you know. And so 17 years of teaching, you know, coming home, feeling the way I feel, trying to figure things out, feeling if I was going to make it another semester, you know, at the public schools, and just my wife continually to pray for me and to encourage me, and always encouraging me to look up where my help come from.
Mm-hmm.
My God, don't make me do it. I don't want to do it. I'm going to stop right there. Yeah.
Well, I think you started off saying that you do things spiritually. Noted. I asked you for one person that has influenced you. You gave me 3. That's the Holy Trinity.
Oh.
To me, that's what I got. I said, well, yeah, that's the Father, Son, Holy Ghost right there.
Yeah. That's right.
And then, not that you saved the best for last, but your wife. And then you bring up the man that finds a wife finds a good thing. The fact that she prays for you. I don't know, that all that just, I think that last 40 seconds just kind of summed up what you said earlier. You do things spiritually. And I support and love that about you, my friend.
Thank you.
Brian, thanks for jumping on today. It has been absolutely my pleasure, my friend.
Oh, man, mine too, man. I really appreciate you.
Until the next one.
Yeah. Oh, man. You know,
There will be a next one.
you got to get the people what they want.